Drake Bell. Recently, Drake Bell has been trending due to the film Quiet on Set, which exposes the abuse that occurred at Nickelodeon. Brian Pick and Dan Schneider being the two culprits. Of course, most people already have known of the stuff that Dan Schneider has done, like the whole feet fetish thing that he's incorporated into his shows. This film elaborates on that furthermore and also exposes the sexism and other inappropriate things that occurred in the offices of Nickelodeon in the writer's room. But the new thing that this documentary does bring to light is the essay that was committed against Drake Bell on behalf of Brian Pick, somebody that worked on set, a well-known Nickelodeon dialogue coach. He would plead no contest to a charge of with a minor under 16, as well as performing with a 14 and 15-year-old. And this was all in connection with Bell's case. Brian would go on to spend only 16 months in prison, and he would be forced to register as a offender. One of the weirdest gigs he's had is being Pickle Boy on All That. Besides working on shows like Boy Meets World and The Amanda Show and What I Like About You, he also was an acting coach for Holes, starring Shia LaBeouf. The craziest thing about this all was that Pick was released from prison in 2005 and was hired by Disney. He was hired by the Disney Channel to work on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. He did voiceover work, but he had no interaction with the crew on set. But either way, he was still working for Disney, meaning that this guy had a lot of connections in the industry and would still be able to get a job anywhere he liked in Hollywood. I mean, he found a job in a kids show after receiving all those charges and having to register as an offender. He would also go on to work in the 2008 movie Bedtime Stories, 2015's Freak of Nature, and 2012's series Anger Management. One of the craziest responses to the film comes from Dan Schneider himself, where he goes on and defends himself in the form of an interview that was called out as a PR stunt and was simply to save face. Aiden Ross attended Michael Rubin's all-white party. This party is controversial and is known as the Illuminati or Ritual Party, and a lot of people have this view because of the amount of celebrities that attend and the fact that all the attendees have to wear white. And for the most part, these are A-list celebrities. So you see people like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jay-Z, and even Travis Scott attending. And all of this happens at Michael Rubin's $50 million Hamptons mansion, leading some to speculate that these are all just puppets in the industry that are being controlled and that they're forced to go to this party as a sort of ritual. There's also the famous picture where Lil Baby is presented in a strange manner, being held by Michael Rubin, leading some to believe that this was a humiliation ritual conducted by Michael Rubin in order for Lil Baby to be accepted into the higher tier of celebrities. Despite people believing that Twitch or Kick streamers aren't popular enough to attend these sort of parties, Aiden Ross was surprisingly invited and attended the all-white party. He even announced this in one of his streams, where his chat was beginning to question him about why he was attending this sort of party and if he was in the Illuminati, leading him to laugh it off and say that it wasn't anything like that. Either way, his chat kept on calling him out and claimed that he sold his soul.
I'm basically being ran like Britney Spears. Do you understand? I'm being controlled. I am not in control anymore. I am being controlled. So now I'm on my own and I have to, I'm out and I'm being controlled. Literally on puppet strings. So basically I'm getting told like a dog to do X, Y, and Z.
There's also the whole Meek Mill jumping like a bunny thing, where Michael Rubin made Meek Mill jump as a bunny for him because he lost a tennis match, adding more flame to the fire of the whole P. Diddy situation, which Meek Mill is involved in. The robots are coming. So all this time, while we were distracted by YouTube shorts and shitty Facebook memes, Mars Incorporated was making Twix double the size trying to make us fat.
They motherfucking made the Twix double the size trying to make us fat.
And the geeks in the AI field were advancing the field of robotics to make them wash our dishes and fold our clothes. During the 2024 NVIDIA GTC event, CEO Jensen Huang presented the new and advanced tech behind humanoid robotics, claiming that humanoid robotics will be the most useful tool for current-day society, due to them being able to fit into most lines of work that currently require humans to complete the task. The foundation model, called Groot, was unveiled as a powerful tool that would allow the AI in the robot to learn through watching videos of humans being in action, giving the humanoid robot the skill of adapting to the human world and how to understand what is going on around it. Mr. CEO also brought out these little as guest speakers. A simulation engine was also mentioned as a tool used to train the robots, described as a virtual gym that the robots could operate within to learn new things, such as walking in an unpredictable environment. The virtual world allows the robots to walk around like it's in the real world and try new things out that it otherwise couldn't do in the real world without using costly resources, like working in a warehouse. Instead of constructing the warehouse and then testing its compatibility with robots, a costly task, it could all be simulated and then tested out on a computer, allowing for it to experience unpredictable scenarios in a safe way. These robots are also learning how to understand a given scenario and then communicating that in a way for people to understand. So all that robot bullying you've seen in the past few years was for the robot's own good, so it could learn and adapt to given obstacles, or violence I guess. It was not done in vain, it was all done for the final plan, to get these robots into our homes, Amazon facilities, the local Walmart, etc. All of that just for it to dab in our face. You're late to the trend, buddy. I hope most of you guys have seen this by now, but if you haven't, you might think what you're about to see is CGI, but it's not. Figure 1 is the name of this guy, created by the company Figure, an AI robotics company building an autonomous general-purpose humanoid robot. And boy are they good at what they do. This is the most recent development in their mission, showcasing their robots doing everyday tasks like putting away dishes and moving more human-like compared to previous robots. It has semi-natural looking movements, but there's something off about it, giving an uncanny valley type of effect. But not only can it pick up trash, it also uses OpenAI tech to communicate. The voice on this thing and the way it stutters when speaking is amazing and goes to show how far computers have come. It's so crazy when you realize the voice is coming from a machine. The robot is also able to observe and understand its surroundings. Corey Lynch, working on the Figure 1, gave us a bit more insight of what's happening in the video, stating that the robot can describe its visual experience, plan future actions, reflect on its memory, and explain its reasoning verbally, thanks to their partnership with OpenAI. Imagine one of these things gaining consciousness in the middle of washing your dishes, and it goes crazy with a knife, thinking it's cutting up steak or something. There's also Optimus, Gen 2 from Tesla, which has new hands that contain tactile sensing on its fingers, allowing for it to grab delicate objects like an egg. From comments, it looks like people have mixed emotions on this. On one hand, you have the people who are saying it's going to take their job and make them homeless, and on the other, people are saying that they want the future that they envisioned as a child to come true. And then on the third hand, there are the perverts. I personally would want to be able to get my own robot doctor so I don't have to self-diagnose on WebMD anymore. Imagine being able to leave the country without a care in the world, knowing that Figure 1 will take care of little Jimmy for you while you're gone. Or you're at home and get a stroke in the middle of the day with nobody around. The robot could pick your ass up and drive you to the hospital. There are so many things that a robot could be useful for if they decide to grant us mercy once they become sentient.
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Creepy anti-piracy screens. The anti-piracy screen, whether real or fan-made, is a screen bug which shows up on a person pirating video games, TV channels, or other media. Anti-piracy screens are designed to protect digital content from unauthorized copying or usage. Most of the time, these are creepypastas, but there are a few real screens, like the Donkey Kong series of privacy screens. In Donkey Kong Country 3, there can be found a creepy anti-piracy screen that displays a warning text not allowing you to play the game. The most unsettling thing about it, though, is the background that they used. They used the game over background. Two of the characters were in jail, and they were staring off into the distance. All this while they're encapsulated in a field of dark, and in the background there is unsettling music playing. In the video Mario Party DS anti-piracy screen, there is gameplay footage of a mini-game, but then it's quickly interrupted by a anti-piracy screen that orders you to destroy the game card and it says to turn it off. It then glitches out and takes us to a more creepy and unsettling piracy screen, depicting Mario and all the other characters in jail behind bars, with text flashing ordering you to turn off the console. Although this was considered to be a fake anti-piracy screen, people still appreciated the art. And so people continued to make them even creepier, like the Super Mario Odyssey one that depicts Mario with a bloody face, and the text reading "You're a thief, warning, pirating video games is a serious crime, which is punishable by 10 years in prison." The Adventures of Milo and Otis. This 1986 film is about two animals, Milo, an orange cat, and Otis, a pug. In the film, they go on an adventure, and basically they just get into trouble, having to deal with other creatures in their environment, like bears or a snake, like it's depicted in the beginning of the film, where it's around the kitties, leading people to question of whether or not this snake was venomous, and if anybody on the crew was doing anything to protect the kitties. All of this led to animal welfare organizations to allege that they committed animal cruelty and abused these animals in order to create their film and make money. A lot of people who grew up watching this movie believed it was simply a family-friendly film, only to later search up the name in a wave of nostalgia, finding that there was tons of animal abuse in the process of creating the movie. An example being the scene where the kittens fall into the river and get swept away by the current. It's said that they had to redo the scene multiple times, leading to a lot of cats drowning. There's also the infamous crab scene where a crab hooks onto a kitty's nose, and the cat reacts just as expected, screaming in pain. The cat's screeches of pain are drowned out in the American version as opposed to the Japanese version, which contains the unedited sound. There's also a scene where the bear is trying to drown the pug as it swims around it. The bear finally gets a hold of the pug and manhandles him, throwing him around. A very uncomfortable scene to watch, knowing all the information we know now. Remote viewing. Remote viewing is the ability to see details of a place and time without actually being there, meaning that you're describing in detail a place that you're not actually at. Something that is supposedly testable by science if done in the correct ways, or at least that's what the believers of remote viewing believe. And the interesting thing about this topic is that the CIA actually has a few papers out on this. It's believed that remote viewing is like a lost sense in our human consciousness, that anybody is able to access under the right conditions, which allow you to be open to receiving information telepathically. It's considered to be a psychic power, and many people ask for this type of service when wanting a psychic to spy on their significant other or anything else. Some people believe that there's a scientific explanation for this all, while others believe it's more of a supernatural phenomenon, leading to multiple different definitions of what remote viewing actually is and what it consists of. But here's how the CIA defines remote viewing. Studies of paranormal phenomena have nearly always been associated with controversy. Despite the controversy concerning their nature and existence, many individuals and organizations continue to be avidly interested in these phenomena. The intelligence community is no exception. Beginning in the 1970s, it has conducted a program intended to investigate the application of one paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, or the ability to describe locations one has not visited, of which one has no prior knowledge. Now, this CIA draft report is titled An Evaluation of the Remote Viewing Program, Research and Operational Applications, and it was published on September 22nd, 1995. In order to evaluate the research program, a panel was assembled. The panel consisted of doctors from University of California to University of Oregon. In addition to their extensive credentials, they were selected to represent both sides of the paranormal controversy. Dr. Otis had published articles that view paranormal interpretations positively, while Dr. Hyman was selected to represent a more skeptical position. However, both are viewed as fair and open-minded scientists, as explained in the CIA document. The conclusion reads, the foregoing observations provided a compelling argument against continuation of the program within the intelligence community. Even though a statistically significant effect has been observed in a laboratory, it remains unclear whether the existence of a paranormal phenomenon, remote viewing, has been demonstrated. The laboratory studies do not provide evidence regarding the source or origins of the phenomenon, nor do they address an important methodological issue of interjudge reliability. P. Diddy's famous parties. So P. Diddy, otherwise known as Sean Combs, was accused of multiple things, spanning all the way from SA to trafficking charges, which are backed up by the two recent raids that occurred at his homes. While all these raids occurred, P. Diddy was found pacing around and looking completely stressed out near an airport. Some people claim that he was even crying. And though this may be surprising to the general public, this was pretty well known in the rap industry due to the strange parties he hosted where he asked people uncomfortable questions, like whether or not they wanted to party with him, which was code for something else completely, something more sinister. And many people believe that Meek Mill was involved in this somehow, that he was one of his victims, due to all the strange content there is about the two of them. Not to mention all the strange allegations made from other rappers in the industry. A prominent theory floating around on TikTok was that P. Diddy did something to Justin Bieber, as he was known to be his major mentor during Bieber's rise to fame, and he was known to be strange around the kid. Due to all these criminal allegations, people are suspecting that he was also behind the murder of Biggie and Tupac. But of course, being accused of one crime doesn't mean you're involved or guilty for all of them. Either way, all his karma's catching up to him. Guy finds his family through Google Maps years after he went missing. Saroo was only 5 years old when he went missing from his village in Kandwa, India. Raised by a single mom and having siblings, he grew up in a pretty tough environment. He was raised in a one-bedroom shack. While searching for food scraps near a train station with his older brother, he gets lost. Due to him falling asleep and leaving his older brother to fend for food for himself, only to be hit by a train and the older brother passed away, leaving Saroo all alone. So he goes on the train trying to search for him, only to be taken somewhere else, miles and miles away. Waking up 1,000 miles away from his home village. This new place that he's at doesn't even speak the same language or dialect that he does in his hometown, so he is very confused. Other than that, he is actually pretty good at surviving on his own. Eventually, a woman that owns an orphanage finds him and takes him in. But of course, she can't locate his family because he doesn't exactly know where he's from, as he was only 5 years old at the time. Thankfully, a while after, he was adopted by an Australian couple, leading him to grow up in Australia, which granted him a lot of opportunity, though he never forgot where he was from. In his 20s, he began using the popular Google Earth, allowing him to navigate all of India little by little, due to the fact that India is massive and it's just too big to look everywhere in detail for just a short period of time. But he knew most likely using this application would allow him to find where he was actually from. The search went on for about 6 years, as he was looking through all the railways and where they led. Finally, he begins finding landmarks that look awfully similar to the ones he remembers looking at when he was a child. He decides to travel there from Tasmania to Kandwa, finding a path that he used to walk on all the time when he was a kid. He knew that he was getting closer and closer to his home. Thankfully, he finds a village, although his childhood home is in rubble. Talking to a local and showing him a picture, he finds his mother finally just around the corner. Ultimately, the mother gets to reunite with her long-lost son, and it has a happy ending. He's now in regular contact with his biological mother, and this was all possible through Google Maps.